Hey everyone, welcome back to Checkmate Scholars. In today's video, we'll be going over the 6th grade reading 2025 STAAR test. Remember, if you'd like access to one-on-one free tutoring, 1 hour of free tutoring with Checkmate Scholars, make sure to check the link in the description. Also, if you'd like to follow along, you can definitely look up the TEA website, which is also in the description, and that'll give you access to a bunch of released STAAR tests from previous years to help you practice for this year's STAAR test. Alright, let's get into the video. This passage is titled A Sour Deal. Before I run through the passage, I think it's good kind of just to get a glimpse at some of the questions to see what we need to keep an eye out for. So here it says in question 1, how do Caitlin's responses to Horatio in scene 1 help develop the plot of the play? So Caitlin's response to Horatio. So we need to be looking at how these two characters, how they speak to each other, how they connect with each other. Question 2 says, what key idea about Horatio is supported by the details in scene 2? Alright, so we need to focus on Horatio in scene 2. Which line of dialogue from scene 1 shows that Caitlin thinks Horatio's treatment of the sourdough starter is exaggerated? Alright, so we need to focus again on Caitlin and Horatio's relationship. How do they relate with one another? Alright, we're reading a summary of scene 1. Which of the following ideas should be included in this paragraph to create a complete summary of scene 1 of the play? Okay. Question 5, based on the events that take place at the end of the play, what will Horatio and Caitlin do next? All right, so we need to infer based off of what we see here in the passage. Read the question carefully and enter your answer. Why are lines 18 through 23 important to the play? The word biohazard contains a prefix from the Greek root that means life. Based on this information, what does the word biohazard mean as it is used in line 23? Alright, so I believe this is the first more specific question associated to a line. So far, most of the questions have been kind of general, kind of geared towards the bigger picture. What does the reader learn about Caitlin from the dialogue and stage directions in line 36? So line 36, we have another specific line we need to pay attention to. Let's highlight that. All right. So I think now we can go through the passage and keep an eye out for some of the details we saw in the questions. All right, let's start. So we have some characters. Horatio is a 12-year-old boy. Caitlin, a 12-year-old girl, Horatio's friend and classmate. And Dad is going to be relating to Horatio's father. All right, scene 1. So the setting is the living room at Horatio's house. Horatio opens the door and Caitlin follows him in. Horatio sets his backpack on the floor. No, it's not a garden. Guess again. She throws her hands up. A terrarium? I give up. What is your big new project? You said you had to feed it, so I'm completely stumped. He grins. Stay here. Horatio exits. Caitlin sits on the couch. Horatio returns holding a container covered with a linen cloth. He places the container on the coffee table before Caitlin. Is this another volcano? Don't you remember when your volcano for the science fair erupted all over the carpet after you fed it all that baking soda? She motions around her. There was lava everywhere. No lava, I promise. He lifts the linen cloth with a flourish, revealing a glass jar. Inside is a doughy off-white substance. She scrunches her face. What on earth is that? This ancient being is a sourdough starter. It is used to bake sourdough bread. Do you want to feed it? I don't understand the question, but I'm leaning toward no. My grandmother sent me home with a piece from her dough. It's alive because of the yeast. My grandmother said she's kept this sourdough starter alive for over 50 years. Why do you want to make bread from something that old? And what does a dough ball eat? It's a descendant of the original dough. You create new dough by feeding it flour and water and letting it expand. Okay, but I'm still not sure what the big deal is. It's just dough. Just dough? This dough is a family heirloom. The bread created from this dough is the most delicious bread in the world. He cradles the jar. I will nurture it like my grandmother did before me. The sourdough will live for a century. He holds the jar up triumphantly. To the kitchen. He exits. Caitlin follows him off stage. Alright, before we move into scene 2, I think it's important to understand what the main message of scene 1 was, because we did have some questions that revolved around scene 1. So here in question 1 it says, how do Caitlin's responses to Horatio in scene 1 help develop the plot of the play? Alright. There's another question also centered around scene 1. Question 3. Which line of dialogue from scene 1 shows that Caitlin thinks Horatio's treatment of the sourdough starter is exaggerated? This we can actually answer based off of what we just read. But before we do that, I think it's good to type out what we saw from scene 1. Alright, so in scene 1, what did we see? So basically, we saw that Horatio revealed his sourdough starter from his grandma. Now, it's important to also look at the fact that this was a revealing. So, Caitlin asked, what is your new big project? So, Horatio revealed his sourdough starter from his grandma, which was the project that Caitlin was asking about. What else do we see from scene 1? Caitlin is a bit confused about the sourdough starter. Horatio has to explain what it is and how it's fed. Alright, so that's kind of the main summary of scene 1, right? We see that, there's a project. Caitlin is like, what's this project? Horatio brings the sourdough starter. Horatio mentions that it's ancient. It's been passed down from his grandma. And Caitlin is still a bit confused. Here in line 14, she says, okay, but I'm not sure what the big deal is. It's just dough. And Horatio places emphasis that this dough is a family heirloom, and I think that's worthy of being highlighted. And so we see that so far Caitlin still isn't catching on as to what this sourdough is. Why is it so important to Horatio? So let's keep this in our notes. Let's save that. And so you can always come back to it here. So let's save that. Now let's answer question 3. Which line of dialogue from scene 1 shows that Caitlin thinks Horatio's treatment of the sourdough starter is exaggerated? All right, let's look at answer choice A. Answer choice A says, she throws her hands up. A terrarium, I give up. What is your big new project? You said you had to feed it, so I'm completely stumped. Alright, so here we see that Caitlin hasn't yet seen the sourdough. This line is taken from right here in line 3, right? Caitlin hasn't seen the sourdough, so she obviously can't be exaggerating anything regarding the sourdough starter if she hasn't seen it yet. All right, let's keep reading. Answer choice B says, is this another volcano? Don't you remember when your volcano for the science fair erupted all over the carpet after you fed it all that baking soda? All right, so this is an interesting choice, but not necessarily. Here's why. See, Caitlin hasn't yet seen the sourdough. Again, just like line 3, line 6 also is before Caitlin sees the sourdough. And remember, our question is asking us to find a line from scene 1 that shows that Caitlin thinks Horatio's treatment of the sourdough is exaggerated. So this line is asking for a response of Caitlin's seeing the sourdough. So we want to see, how does Caitlin respond to seeing the sourdough? And so far, answer choices A and B are before she sees the sourdough. Answer choice C: why do you want to make bread from something that old? And what does a dough ball eat? All right, so we're getting closer, right? So answer choice C is definitely, that's definitely after Horatio reveals the sourdough, okay? So Horatio reveals the sourdough here in line 7. So we have lines 12 and 14, which are after. So now we have to compare lines 12 and 14 to see which one best describes Caitlin's view of Horatio's sourdough as exaggerated. Alright, so let's look at answer choice D. Okay, but I'm still not sure what the big deal is. It's just dough. Alright, this seems to fit our description a bit better, right? Let's reread the question. Which line of dialogue from scene 1 shows that Caitlin thinks Horatio's treatment of the sourdough starter is exaggerated? So basically, this question is saying, which line shows us that Caitlin thinks Horatio is doing too much? He's just being extra. He's just exaggerating. It's no big deal. That seems to be the deal in answer choice D. In answer choice D, we see that Caitlin is basically saying, it's no big deal, right? Okay, but I'm not sure what the big deal is. It's just dough. So compared to answer choice C, answer choice D is the better option. Let's continue on and see if we can answer any other questions based off of what we just read in scene 1. So question 5 is asking about the end of the play. Question 6 is asking about lines 18 through 23, which are in scene 2. So line 23 is also in scene 2. Line 36 is also in scene 2. So far, without even reading the whole thing, we've already been able to answer 2 questions right off the bat. Why do I like this style? I prefer this style of going through STAAR test questions because sometimes you read through the whole thing and then you get to specific questions like 3 and 4, and then you have to go back and read that all over again, right? And that's just a waste of time. So I believe this method saves us a bit more time. Also, if you write a good summary, guess what? You don't have to reread all that, right? You can reread your summary, and then after answering these questions, just reread your summary and move on to scene 2. Right. So let's recap. Scene 1 is basically this summary right here, right? Basically, we see Caitlin and Horatio coming into the house, discussing what the project is. Horatio reveals his sourdough, and then Caitlin is a bit confused, like, hey, what is this? Why is it even important? It's not that big a deal. Horatio explains why it's a big deal. So now let's continue into scene 2. 8 weeks later, the setting is the kitchen at Horatio's house. Caitlin and Horatio sit at a table. Horatio: and that's why the cards with the shiny backgrounds are the most valuable. We'll look at my new card collection later. She mindlessly nods at Horatio. Sure, I'm getting hungry. Have you made more bread recently? That loaf you brought to my house a while back was good. She looks around. Where's the sourdough starter? Panic spreads across his face. Oh no! He rushes to the refrigerator and starts pulling items out. He finally pulls out the glass jar and brings it back to the table. The dough has black and green spots on one side. Suppressing a laugh. I thought you were going to nurture it like your grandmother before you. I'll save it. He opens the jar. There is mold on it. It's a biohazard. Throw it away. Dad enters. So let's stop right here. So remember, we have a question regarding the word biohazard, which I believe was around here. Yes, question 7. The word biohazard contains a prefix from the Greek root that means life. Based on this information, what does the word biohazard mean as it is used in line 23? Alright, so for context, we remember that this word biohazard is referring to the mold, right? That's referring to the mold, okay? The green and black spots. So if bio means life, and we know that hazard means something is dangerous, then that means that biohazard is something that's dangerous to life. Right, so let's look at our answer choices. Personal story or narrative? No, it's not dangerous to life. Danger to health? Okay, that's close to what we got. Material for construction? No. Object of affection? No. So definitely our answer is B. Alright, so see, just like that, we can knock out some of these questions so that we don't have to read the whole passage and then come to our questions and start looking for the answers again. So it's kind of like we're using the questions as a guide through the passage. All right, let's keep reading. So let's start here, actually, so we have some context. Suppressing a laugh. I thought you were going to nurture it like your grandmother before you. I'll save it. He opens the jar. There's mold on it. It's a biohazard. Throw it away. Dad enters. Have you seen my... He sniffs. Did you forget to take the trash out this morning? It's grandmother's sourdough starter. Hangs his head. I forgot about it. Dad gets a spoon and the flour. He takes the jar from Horatio and scoops out the part with spots. Don't tell your grandmother, but years ago she asked me to feed her dough while she went on vacation. I forgot about it, but I did some panicked research online. Yeast is resilient. You think it might be alive? Feed it and see if it expands, and cross your fingers. It worked for me. He gives the jar and flour to Horatio and exits. Caitlin, get water stat. There's no time to lose. He digs his hand into the bag of flour. Calm down. If this works, are you going to remember to take care of it? You tend to get excited about something and forget about it a week later. This seems like important information. Let's highlight that. Sighs. Maybe I'm not cut out to care for a living substance. Caitlin rolls her eyes. I wanted to continue the original sourdough starter's legacy. He removes his hand from the bag and stares pitifully at the dough. Puts a hand on his shoulder and smiles. Well, that's noble. So I'll help you out. I'll remind you to feed it, and you will bake bread for me. Deal? Deal. They high five, and a puff of flour rises. Curtain. Alright, so we have a highlight here on line 36. Let's see what that is about. What does the reader learn about Caitlin from the dialogue and stage directions in line 36? So here, Caitlin is responding to Horatio. So before that, in line 32, she reminds Horatio that he gets excited in the moment, and sometimes he forgets about that excitement with time. So Horatio starts to feel bad and thinks that maybe he can't handle it. Right? Now Caitlin is saying that, hey, you've got it. I'll help you out. Right? Your desire to do what is right is a noble thing, but you still need help. So Caitlin is someone that's caring and helpful and kind. So now let's look at our answer choices. So remember, we're trying to see what we can learn about Caitlin based off of line 36. She has a history of setting high standards to assist others. Let's continue looking. She views helping Horatio as an opportunity to earn something in return. Well, she's not necessarily an opportunist. She's not doing it purposefully for what she can gain, but that's just something like icing on the top of the cake. She doubts that Horatio will be able to recover from his disappointment. She's not doubtful, she's optimistic, she's kind, she's hoping that Horatio can do better. She supports her friend even when he makes mistakes. This seems to this seems to highlight the character of Caitlin. Alright, so she's not setting standards high, right? She's not making things super hard for Horatio, but she is setting a realistic standard, right? So she's remembered that he forgets, and she's willing to help. So that's why A isn't the right answer. And for B, again, she's not an opportunist. She's not trying to steal things from Horatio. She's not trying to do things for Horatio just so she can get something back. And she's not doubtful. She's very optimistic. So D is the correct answer here because it shows that she supports her friend.
Hey everyone, if you're interested in a free 1-hour tutoring session with Checkmate Scholars, make sure to click the link in the description. That link will send you to a Google document where you can sign up for your student. Alright, let's get back to the video.
Alright, let's look at any other questions that we have not answered yet. Question 1. How do Caitlin's responses to Horatio in scene 1 help develop the plot of the play? Alright, so what is the plot? The plot is basically the map out of the play or the story that you're reading. So you have your beginning, your introduction, you have your rising action, your climax, your falling action, and conclusion. Alright, so we have a lot of different parts of the plot. And so from here, what we can see in the plot is that at first we have Horatio and Caitlin first entering the scene. They're trying to learn about the sourdough, right? Caitlin is still a bit confused, but Horatio is very optimistic and he's trying to explain everything, right? So Caitlin's responses to Horatio in scene 1, how does that develop the plot of the play? So we see at first that Caitlin is someone that asks a lot of questions. She's very curious and she wants to get to the bottom of things. So Caitlin is very fond of remembering the things that happened in the past. So she says, "Don't you remember?" Right? So this sets something up for us about Caitlin. It shows us that Caitlin is someone that remembers things, right? And that's the same thing that happened here, right? She remembers things. Let's continue reading, right? We see that Caitlin is again asking questions. She's curious. She wants to know what's going on. She doesn't understand. I'm leaning toward no. Why do you want to make bread from something that old? Again, so she's curious. She's asking questions. Okay, but I'm not sure what the big deal is. Again, she is still trying to get to the bottom of things. She's trying to understand what's going on. So let's look at our answer choices. So A says, it caused Horatio to become interested in other types of activities. Well, no, Horatio doesn't change his activities throughout this whole play. He still continues to focus on the sourdough starter. Answer choice B, they prompt Horatio to make a commitment he will struggle to keep. That is pretty interesting. Let's keep this in our back pocket. And it's kind of interesting because we see that Horatio does forget about the sourdough, right? It ends up growing mold, right? I believe that is right here. It grows mold, okay? They cause Horatio to wonder if he has taken up too many responsibilities. Not really. So the questions being asked don't really mention any other responsibilities. They're just trying to get a better understanding of what the sourdough starter is. So it's not A, it's not C. We're still keeping B in our back pocket. D, they prompt Horatio to make a plan for accomplishing his goal. Alright, there's no plan here. And even in scene 2 and in the rest of the play, there's no plan only until we get to the end. But this plan isn't in scene 1. Let's read our question again. How do Caitlin's responses to Horatio in scene 1 help develop the plot? So we're left with B. Now, why would B be the right answer? They prompt Horatio to make a commitment he will struggle to keep. Now, let's look at Caitlin's responses one more time. So Caitlin here in line 14 says, I'm not sure what the big deal is. It's just dough. Now, if we go to 15, we see that Horatio responds, just dough. He talks about it being a family heirloom, and he says this sourdough will live a century, right? He says, I will nurture it like my grandmother did before me. Okay? And I believe somewhere he mentions how he will take care of it for many years. Right here, he says, my grandmother said she's kept the sourdough starter alive for over 50 years. All right? So here he also says this sourdough will live for a century. So Horatio is claiming that he's going to take care of it, right? They prompt Horatio to make a commitment he will struggle to keep. This is a commitment that he struggles to keep. How do we know he struggles to keep it? Remember, it grows mold. He forgets about it in the fridge, right? He rushes to the refrigerator and starts pulling items out. Typically, when you go to a fridge and you're pulling items out, it means that there's something hidden in the back that has been forgotten. So B would be the correct answer here. Let's check out question 2. What key idea about Horatio is supported by the details in scene 2? Alright, so what do we pick from scene 2? Remember, Horatio has forgotten about his sourdough starter. His dad intervenes and he's quickly excited to get to fixing it. So here he's like, hey Caitlin, get water stat, there's no time to lose. And he's already ready to fix the sourdough. But then Caitlin reminds him that his excitement in these moments typically starts to diminish with time. It starts to decrease with time. So now he's starting to be a bit more doubtful. Maybe he's not cut out for that. You know, he starts to feel a bit remorseful, a bit sorry that he wasn't able to finish. But then Caitlin lifts up his spirits and now he's ready to continue. So let's see, what key idea about Horatio is supported by the details in scene 2? Horatio regrets having been careless about an important task. Okay, this is a good answer. Let's keep it. Horatio is able to make friends easily with others from school. We don't know that. All we know is that Horatio and Caitlin are friends and classmates. This whole play doesn't mention anything about any other friends. So let's knock out B. Horatio has a close relationship with his grandmother. Well, yeah. We do see that this is something from his grandmother, right? But we realize that in scene 1, my grandmother sent me home with a piece from her dough, right? And here it says, I will nurture it like my grandmother did before me. So this represents a close relationship, but it's in scene 1, not scene 2. So let's knock out C. Horatio has a new interest in science projects and experiments. A new interest. We see him doing science fair projects in scene 1, right? Caitlin reminds him about the volcano for a previous science project. So that's in scene 1, not in scene 2. So I believe here our best answer is answer choice A. Let's move on to question 5, and then we have question 6 left. Based on the events that take place at the end of the play, what will Horatio and Caitlin do next? Alright, so we go to the end. This is where they make a deal. So Caitlin mentions how Horatio wants to do good, but he can't because he doesn't remember, or sometimes his excitement starts to decrease as time passes by. So we see that Caitlin decides to remind him, and as a form of appreciation, she would love to get some bread from that. Alright, so let's look at our answer choices. What's likely to happen next? Caitlin will watch as Horatio adds more flour to the jar. Okay, so that is a continuation of what happened after Horatio's dad left, right? So he gives the jar and flour to Horatio and exits. That's the dad. Horatio digs his hand into the bag of flour, right? So he's already ready to take care of the sourdough. But Caitlin stops him and reminds him, hey, you get excited, but remember, sometimes your excitement starts to diminish. So now she's like, hey, from now on, I'll help you out, but you also have to help me out with some bread too. So they're like, deal. So at this point, it seems as though they may be continuing what they were doing before Caitlin interrupted. Alright? So Caitlin will watch as Horatio adds more flour to the jar. This is very, very possible. Let's leave that in our back pocket. Horatio will give his trading card collection to Caitlin. It's funny this is mentioned because this happens first here in scene 2. This isn't something that really continues on, right? At this point, Horatio has completely left his playing cards and goes towards the sourdough, right? He says we'll look at my new card collection later. He doesn't even mention giving it to Caitlin, so we can knock out answer choice B. Answer choice C, Horatio will research new baking recipes with Caitlin. He doesn't mention any new baking recipes, right? But I mean, it is a bit likely considering they are cooking, but A seems way more likely that he's going to try and save the sourdough first, right? The sourdough being saved is more important than researching new baking recipes. Caitlin will ask Horatio about Dad's history with sourdough. This isn't something that seems likely, considering their dad has already mentioned his history. So the best answer choice will be answer choice A. Alright, let's check out question number 6. Read the question carefully, then enter your answer in the space provided. Why are lines 18 through 23 important to the play? Support your answer with evidence from the play. Let's read lines 18 through 23. And that's why the cards with shiny backgrounds are the most valuable. Look at my new card collection later. She mindlessly nods at Horatio. Sure, I'm getting hungry. Have you made more bread recently? That loaf you brought to my house a while back was good. She looks around. Where's the sourdough starter? Panic spreads across his face. Oh no. He rushes to the refrigerator and starts pulling items out. He finally pulls out the glass jar and brings it back to the table. The dough has black and green spots on one side. Suppressing a laugh. I thought you were going to nurture it like your grandmother before you. I'll save it. He opens the jar. There's mold on it. It's a biohazard. Throw it away. Alright, so this has been lines 18 through 23. Now, why are they important to the play? Alright, let's take a look at my written response as to why lines 18 and 23 are important to the play. Now remember, the play as a whole, when we're looking at the bigger picture, has something important to look at, which is the plot. We have the introduction, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the conclusion, right? So that's the importance of the play, okay? So now we're trying to relate lines 18 and 23 to that plot. Okay, so this is my answer. Before lines 18 through 23, we see that Horatio places so much emphasis on the sourdough and explains its importance to Caitlin, who is a bit confused as to why it is so important. Horatio claims to take care of it for a really long time due to how important it was to his grandmother and his family history. Lines 18 through 23 represent the climax of the story. This is where part of the sourdough goes moldy. This contradicts Horatio's original promise to take care of the sourdough, which sets up the following action where Caitlin and Horatio plan on saving the sourdough. So that is my written response for question 6. Now, if you noticed, for all of these questions, we kind of jumped around. So in your STAAR test, realize you don't have to go through every question chronologically or in order. You can hop around. You can do answers in any specific order. It does not matter as long as you feel comfortable. If you feel comfortable with going from question 1 to 2 to 3 all the way to question 8, then that's fine. If you like this method, which involves answering the questions as we go through the passage, that's also another great strategy. This is the strategy that I personally use, and I think it is very effective. So that's all for today.
Alright everyone, that brings us to the end of today's video. If you found it useful, I'd really appreciate if you could give this video a like. Also, maybe share it to a student that could maybe benefit from this type of content. Remember, in the future, we are going to other grade levels for STAAR test prep, so make sure to subscribe so you're updated when we do release those videos. Also, if you'd like one-on-one tutoring for your student, don't forget to check the link in the description. There you can access the sign-up link for Checkmate Scholars. Remember, for new Checkmate Scholars customers, you do get 1 hour of free tutoring, so don't let that opportunity pass you by. Sign up today. As always, I'll see you in the next video. Until then, checkmate.